what Jared didn't tell you is DIs actually have to be escorted off the stage because they run over their time. No, kidding. I'm a DC. I'm no better, so if anybody wants to pick me up and throw me on their shoulder and take me off later, I will do it. But how y'all leaders doing today? Awesome. So they asked me to talk about operating systems, and when they asked me, I said, hell yeah, because I am motivated by winning. I like to watch people win. I personally like to win. And I know that operating systems is the way that you make your business win. So just before we get started, so I have general perspective, show of hands, who believes that they have a good functional operating system? All right, we got work to do. I like that. I like the honesty. It's because y'all took that assessment. Seeing me twice, that's awkward. All right, I like to set clear expectations, so you'll see the objective that's written on the screen, okay? I want you to leave here with tools to have a developed operating system for you to finish out the rest of this year. So the first thing that we're going to do, because I only have 30 minutes, is run through some of those tools. We won't be able to actually run through the exercises, but the tools themselves we'll get through. So if you have your pen and paper, and I'm a DC, so I'm watching you intently, you need to be writing down this business checklist, right? Those first two bullet points, the establishing your core values and determining your purpose, coupled with identifying your target client, your ideal client that Jared just mentioned, those three things together, those become all of your decision-making moving forward. How many people have trouble making decisions for their business? Everyone should be saying, yes, Lauren, me. It's hard. Making decisions for the business is hard. When you have these three things established, it allows you to operate within a set of boundaries that you created with a clear mind before that challenge was presented. And when you eliminate that indecision fatigue that you have, that's when your business moves forward. That's when you stop slowing down and you pick that damn speed up and get where you want to be. So again, establishing these first three things, your core values, your purpose, and your ideal client, that's going to be the boundaries for your decision-making moving forward. We're going to move forward to talk about setting goals. Everybody generally likes to think that they set goals really well, and that's great. But are you tracking that goals through a system to make sure that they're being accomplished, right? Jared talked about the different personalities. My husband Jason's here. He asked the annoying question that the answer was no. So he's an ID. Jason loves to have talks with me, gets so excited and hyped up about, yes, we have this plan moving forward. And if I don't follow up, he ain't doing it, right? That's something that he knows about himself. And once he has that awareness and he has an accountability system, he accomplishes every goal that he sets now. It's just that little change of making sure you have your operating system. Then we're going to define and document your process. Everybody's heard of SOPs before? Yeah, that's my jam. I love me some SOPs. And I think everybody gets afraid of that little phrase, standard operating procedure, thinking that it's some big crazy thing that they don't know how to do. It's a freaking checklist. We can all make a checklist, so we're going to talk about it because you need it. And then we're going to talk about that accountability system. Both in the structure, which is that utopian accountability organization chart that Jared mentioned, but also in what we refer to as the meeting pulse, which is the system of how you're meeting with your team and actually holding them accountable. It's a lot easier than you think if you spend some time building it. Then we're going to talk a little bit about marketing strategy and plan, which my marketing team is probably laughing because I don't do marketing, right? They make me get on stage. They make me do those videos. But honestly, if you talk about your organization, I know anything that you need to know about our organization. That's marketing too. So we're going to talk about putting together a plan and then a strategy of how you implement that, all right? We're going to identify opportunities for leverage. So I didn't see when y'all raised y'all hands on high Ds, but how many high Ds do we have in here? All right, high Cs, go ahead and add yourself in. Like, y'all are both terrible at leverage, right? And so we're going to talk about the significance of it. For totally separate reasons, you want to maintain that control. You will not get where you want to go if you cannot use the resources around you, right? And then finally, we're going to pinpoint some tools to maintain focus and clarity and intent. So Dom does an incredible job for that at Arena Collective, but I'm going to give you all some tools so that you can start working on that yourself. Sound good? Any questions on that before we get started? I'm using my auctioneer voice, so we got time for it. All right, establishing those core values. Every organization should have 3 to 5 words that mean something very important to them. And I think we've all heard of core values before, right? You've seen the big companies that give you the t-shirt, or you can walk in and they have some cool words on the wall. And I think they all go through that exercise, but are they truly living their values? So my husband and I God, it's weird when you're here. My husband and I have a bunch of quotes that we put on our wall, and I think we want them there to believe that they will like be absorbed to our daughters through osmosis. But one of those quotes is, preach the gospel daily. When necessary, use words. And I'm not just trying to take y'all to church. I will, but I'm not doing that today. My purpose of that quote is saying, just by interacting with someone, I should know what your values are. You shouldn't have to tell me, right? I know how you live your life. That's how we live at Arena. We hope that just by interacting with any of us, that you say, I get the values of their organization. I get that they care about the legacy that they're creating. I get that they want a standard of excellence. I get that they operate as a team, right? And so you should be picking out words that are important to you. And then the next step is defining those words. That's the key that most organizations miss. They pick the words, they put them on the wall, but because they don't define them, nobody actually truly knows what it looks like to live them, right? And so what I want you to do is set a 1-week deadline. This is your first piece of homework, and I'm going to give you a lot. But I want a 1-week deadline that you are picking 3 to 5 words for your organization. And then under each word, I want 3 to 5 bullet points of what that word means to you. Because otherwise, you're leaving it up to Webster's, and it might not be that important to you. One of ours is integrity. And whenever I'm working with a business, because I go through these exercises with them often, integrity comes up. It's like one of those given, right? So I always push back a little bit further. If there's not a story that they can tell me, I'm like, you're just putting it up there because it sounds good. Give me another one that means something. But when we talked about integrity, Jared immediately was like, it's doing the right thing when no one's looking. And while that isn't a very well-developed definition, that's exactly how we feel, right? We work with a lot of businesses. We are entrusted with a lot of really strong decisions. And on the real estate side, we're doing that very quickly. And there's almost a conflict of interest at times, right? Because we want those deals to close because that's how we get paid. But what if it's not the right kind of deal? Are we going to do the right thing when no one's looking? We are, because that's how we live our values. So I'm giving that as an example. So don't just pick a bunch of fluff words. Give 3 to 5 bullet points for each for what they mean to you. I want to further give you a couple of practical ways that we use values, right? So y'all can understand the tangible benefit. Jared talked a little bit about our hiring process. We give the DISC assessment. We see if they'll even fit. If they get past that stage, we meet with them. After that first meeting, and after I try to make the job as horrible as possible, then I tell them, go look on our website, look at our values. We have 5 of them. Pick one that resonates with you, or all of them, whatever makes you comfortable, and send me something back. Why? Because if their values don't align with Arena's values, we are going to drive them freaking nuts. We are high volume, we are high quality, we are fast paced, right? If you're not the right fit, you're going to be miserable, and we're both wasting our time. And then, of course, you get the added benefit that when they send me that, it's a writing sample. And then the third added benefit is I see how quickly they do it. I want to hire the person that's sending me that writing sample the same day, right? Not 2 days later. So again, there's a practical application of your values. A second practical application is, y'all ever have any trouble clients? Not one person in here has had a bad client. Thank you. One honest person, all right. Integrity, no, I'm kidding. Those bad clients, sometimes you have to have self-reflection. Are we doing something wrong that isn't pushing this process forward? And maybe you do need to improve your process, and that's why the client's giving you grief. On the other hand, maybe your values don't align with that client, and you're going to be spinning your wheels trying to make them happy because y'all are 2 different people. And when you can cut that cord, you have room for 2 more clients paying double, right? So again, I wanted to give y'all those 2 practical points so it doesn't seem so abstract on how these values can actually be used in your organization. Y'all good with that? All right. This is just an example of Arena's value. I like to show this because it is entirely too long and like a run-on sentence. But you know what? That's what leadership means to Arena. And so if you actually go to our website, Jared talked a little bit about how we complement one another. Our partner, John, he could freaking write a book, play a guitar, paint you a picture, and be a lawyer. He's amazing. And so if you read the ones that he wrote, they're beautiful. I wrote this one, so it's choppy and barely makes sense, but I had 16 bullet points I wanted to fit in. And John's is eloquently written. So again, you can use that as an example that there's no right or wrong way because it's what the value means to you. Cool? All right. Next, you have 1 week for this deadline too. I want to know your purpose. Now, 90% of you, when I ask, What is your why? My family. I love my family. But I can make money for my family doing a million things, right? I can make money for my family. I used to bartend in college and go make a couple of drinks if I wanted to do that. But why am I a lawyer? Why Arena Collective? I truly want to know the purpose of why you get up and do what you freaking choose to do every day. And there's a bunch of questions, and you can write down the one that resonates with you, but I highlighted the one that's most important to me because I think it just really drums up some thought. What is your definition of success? And I'm really mad that Dom left because he would be proud of me, but I'm actually going to give y'all 30 seconds. I want for the people that like to visualize to close their eyes and really try to picture at the end of this year, your year was successful. What does it look like? And for my high Ds like me, you could just start writing the bullet points because you've already thought of it. Who are you with? Not just what your balance sheet looks like, not just your P&L. How do you feel? What's your office space look like? And I think what's really important once you have a defined purpose is it keeps you intentional. So again, my practical self, I'll give you another practical definition. So Arena Collective got started, and we were just an out-of-the-gate running kind of people, right? We don't really like to slow down much. And so that traction had already caught up, and within 9 months of us opening, we had someone approach us to purchase a company in Florida. And so Jared and I were like, yes. No, that's my first reaction. I'm a DC, so immediately I'm like, I want to do this. And I'm like, oh, wait, we got to talk about those details too, because I want it to be perfect. And the first thing that we did, I said, let's go back to our boundaries, and our purpose was to develop businesses in St. Tammany Parish. Is buying a business in Florida going to help us develop businesses in St. Tammany Parish? So guess what? Arena wasn't distracted. We said no, something very hard for us to do, and we do not own a business in Florida. So again, there's a practical way that you can use those boundaries to move forward. Cool? 1 week. You gonna have a purpose in a week? Yeah? Y'all can speak in here. This isn't one-sided. And then I'll give y'all our example of our purpose as well. And you'll notice it's very broad. Because again, we kept going back and forth. But at the end of the day, we were like, St. Tammany is our place. These are our people. We're gonna do whatever it takes to help businesses in St. Tammany grow. Whether it's partnering with Jonah and growing Lettuce Media, whether it's making sure that our business department of our law firm can take on every type of business that comes in the door. We want St. Tammany to grow, to create a better ecosystem so that we have better families, right? That's our purpose, and we do it through our 5 values. And again, if y'all need to go back and reference that, you can always do it on our website or just shoot me an email. Third part of those boundaries, identifying that ideal client. Jared already told you, it's so nice when you know who that client is, how you can identify their behavior so you know how to speak to them. But first, we've got to identify them. Who are you trying to impact? Who has the greatest impact on your business? Look at it from both ways. And when you can't think of where to start, the perfect place is usually, I know who the heck I don't want it to be. Those bad clients that you don't want to admit, right? I'm sure you can think of 2 or 3 of them in time that you don't want to service again. Start there. But I want to go all the way down to the point that this individual, whomever it becomes, actually gets a name. And they're part of all your decisions moving forward. Oh, you're presented here with this print magazine, and we want your advertising in it, right? And Wanda's your ideal client. Is Wanda reading that magazine? If Wanda is not reading that magazine, you're just donating money, right? We want you to sponsor this golf tournament. Are you going to the golf tournament? Does Wanda like golf? We need to know these answers. And the most important question that you should be asking yourself when you're identifying your ideal client is, what's Wanda's problems? Because how will she respect you? If you solve her freaking problems, right? Going forward, adding value every single day. How can you add value to the individuals that are going to have the greatest impact on your business? Seems simple, but once you define it, it truly is, and it should be part of every conversation. A few key takeaways I want to remind you. Your avatar does not have to be your best friend. Sometimes we'll finish it, and they'll be like, oh, I don't like her. And it's, oh, you should like her, because your values should align. But it doesn't have to be your best friend, right? I've also had questions like, well, what about all the other people? You just tell them no? That's stupid to turn away business. Did I tell y'all to turn away business? Absolutely not. I'm just asking you not to spend wasted money going after the other business instead of your ideal client. So you're making decisions to get the best return on your investment by choosing your ideal client. Everybody that comes in the door, you can still help them. We have a hard time telling people no, so we're going to help you regardless. We just might not spend money to find you. Does that make sense? So going back, you'll see a few benefits. You're going to save money by investing in marketing that actually has a good return. You get targeted feedback from the people that you're trying to impact, right? We always get feedback. You get that negative feedback all the time, right? But you want that good feedback that you can take them to a coffee and ask them, what can I improve for you? That's when you're getting somewhere with your business. You're building deeper relationships that have improved quality. You're doing business with people that know, like, and trust you, and you know, like, and trust them. You have best use of your limited resources. Which our number one limited resource? It's on the screen. Thank you. Time, right? Use it wisely. You get focus and intent, and you get to be consistent with your messaging. You do all of that, it will scare you forward. So in 1 week, you're going to have values, purpose, and an ideal client. That means that you have a set of boundaries for all your decision-making moving forward. Congratulations. Can't wait to hear about it next week. All right, setting goals. Everybody heard of SMART goals before? I think you kind of be under a rock if you haven't heard of SMART goal setting. It's just the acronym, right? But I do have a little bit of a pet peeve because, it's SMART, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I've seen a few different rubrics that have that R as realistic. And whoever does that needs to be throat punched. It's ridiculous. We need to push ourselves to have big goals. But on top of that, what am I putting the relevant to? Can anybody guess? Those first three things we just established. That's your set of boundaries. It needs to be relevant to your values, relevant to your purpose, and relevant to your ideal client. If you're setting goals that are not relevant to that, what did you do? Waste time. What is time? Our most valuable resource. Money also. Right? So we're going to do relevant goals, aren't we? I'll give you 2 weeks on goals. And on goals, you should have at least two. One is your volume-based or production goal, right? The money goal. That's the one that everybody thinks about. Some are like, okay, do that one, get it out of the way. The second should be something substantive, whether it's you're substantively learning a new skill, improving a skill, or maybe you're improving something on the personal end. Maybe that goal is getting through the DISC assessment to the point that you have that awareness that you're ready to actually lead and scale your business. That would be a great goal. But I at least want you to have 2 goals in 2 weeks, one that's volume or production-based, and one that's of substantive growth, whether personal or business. Any questions on that? Now, once you have these goals, you're going to break them down. This is really tiny on this one. Action plan, right? So generally, we start with making annual goals. But that's the big picture. So then you got to break it down to the quarter. Does anybody have any cyclical business? Their industry is cyclical? Or maybe it's growing really fast, so it's going to be ever-changing throughout this year? It's just not right to apply the goals across the entire year. So we break it down based on each quarter. And that's when you have short-term goals that you can build projects around. Then you want to take those quarterly goals, and you need to break those down into weekly goals. Because when you break them down per week, you can hold everybody accountable and know that you're actually getting somewhere. Because it's fun setting goals. People just forget about them. If you're tracking them on a weekly basis, have y'all ever heard of a scorecard before? Any people that used to be in corporate? They have scorecard metrics for you. It's assigned to you. It's the metrics that you need to meet each week. People usually hate that, but it's actually wonderful because then you don't have someone micromanaging you. You know exactly what you need to do every single week. And those metrics will add up each week to get you to your quarterly goal. And then your quarterly goals add up, and that gets you to your annual goal. Do y'all know what that system is called? Forecasting. I can't tell you how many businesses come to me and, Lauren, I don't know, I need to hire a CFO. I can't afford one because I have no idea how to forecast. All you have to do is break down your goals. You'll know exactly where your business stands. You won't have that ebb and flow because you're following it on a weekly basis, right in front of your eyes. I'm not saying you don't need a CFO. I'll talk to you about whether you do, but 9 times out of 10, you can solve that problem just by breaking down your goals into weekly metrics. All right? How long y'all think y'all need for that? I think you can do it within the same 2 weeks. You can take that financial goal and break it down into quarterly, and then break the quarterly into weekly metrics. So by the end of the year, you're achieving that goal. And the other part that setting goals does is it helps you dismiss obstacles, because as you're setting those goals, everything, you know, that little toddler that's always crying inside of you, telling you that you can't do something, is going to come up with all the reasons of why you can't meet that goal. So you get to get them out, put them on paper, and get rid of them. Okay, that's true. That exists. I'm not saying ignore it, but solve it. Solve those problems that are going to get in the way of you achieving your goal. Y'all can do that in 2 weeks? All right. Heard a yes, ma'am. I appreciate it. Okay. We're going to define and document your process. So I have on here, if you die tomorrow, which is really morbid, but it's how I think. So then in parentheses, I put, or go on vacation. So you can die or go to Hawaii. It's your choice. But having a process is what's going to allow for that. I don't want to have to tell Jason, no, we can't do the trip to Italy because no one can do my job. Well, then I'm just an employee, not a business owner. Take me to Italy. And so when you have these processes written down, you're able to hand them to someone and say, this is how I do it, right? What's the other benefit of that? You're handing it to somebody, they get to look at it and say, yeah, but you might want to improve on this. And so over time, you have this living document that is making you better and better and better. And you have a repetitive process on how to scale. Because scaling sounds fun. Business has become, in the last few years, showing my personality a lot, a bunch of buzz phrases. Scaling's one of them. And I love them. They're exciting, but there's got to be some meat behind it. Your SOPs, that's your meat. You can talk about having a business all day. If you can't put it on paper, you don't have a business. And I get kickback all the time. I've been doing this for 20 years. How could I possibly put 20 years on paper? I promise you there is some repetitive process within that 20 years that you do every frickin' day. Start there. Stop complaining about the obstacles. Start putting on paper what you can. Right? So what my recommendation is, we're about to start Q2, right? I don't know where Q1 went, but we're about to start Q2. I would like for all of you to have a quarterly goal in Q2 of documenting your process. If your business isn't on paper, put it on paper. Start by defining the different roles that you have in your organization. We're going to talk about the accountability chart here in a second. There should be at least one SOP for every one of those roles. If that role doesn't warrant an SOP, that role is unnecessary. Clear? All right. I appreciate this corner. We're going to start with those core repetitive tasks first, and then you can build out all the ancillary things that need to attach to it. One of the biggest things that people miss in SOPs is time frames. Almost all of my clients send me their first draft, how's this looking? And I'm like, you forgot time frames. Hugely important, right? Because that's how you set an expectation. Is that your own expectation, the expectation with your employees, or an expectation with your client? Which is it? All of them. So if you're not defining it, you can't give an expectation to anyone. What happens when you don't give a client an expectation? They set one themselves. And then 9 times out of 10, you're not meeting what's in their head. Set the expectation and then beat it. And then you get to impress them. So set yourself up for success. Don't forget those time frames. I am already having an orange light. Accountability system. So we have the structure, which is your accountability chart. I want to know, in the next 6 to 12 months, what is your utopian business? What does your utopia look like? Now, here is the key. I don't want you to think about anybody that's in your organization. You have a clean slate. Your business doesn't even exist. And you build out all the positions. Then you go back later to see who are the right people to go in the right seats. Another practical aspect, we talked about the hiring process. Why is it important that values align? Because that means they're the right people for the organization. So you can have a right person with good values that works hard, but what's their right seat? We have to determine that. Jared gave y'all the DISC assessment tool to do that. And then after you build out that utopian chart, you need that meeting pulse system of meeting once a week. One of the things that you're going to have on that itinerary is that scorecard that we talked about, right? That you already put the work in on because you broke down your goals. Then you put those metrics into your meeting. But the most important thing for the meeting is solving problems. You want to create a system where everybody is bringing their problems to one meeting each week, not interrupting your day constantly asking you a million questions, right? You got 3 weeks. In 3 weeks, I want you to have a set date and a set time every single week that you meet for your accountability meeting. Can y'all do that? And make sure you have an accountability partner that understands your business. All right, launching a marketing strategy and plan. First, you have to define a marketing strategy. And again, I'm not a marketer, but I've reasoned that it comes down to just 4 simple things. And guess what? The first one, you're already going to have done in a week. Your ideal client. Congratulations, you're ahead. Then you want your elevator pitch. 3 things that make your business unique than any other business in the industry. Is there anybody here today that's prepared to share that? That was your chance. 60 people. No takers? 3 things. How are you unique? All y'all have homework. That needs to be done in a week. What are the 3 things that make your business different? You want to be able to take advantage of the room next time that's asked. Your proven process. Once you build out your SOPs, you can communicate your process to your client. When you're able to communicate that with them, expectations are clear, right? We got CPAs in the room, attorneys in the room, clients call us all the time and want an update. If I give them a clear expectation, you're not going to hear from me in 3 weeks. They're not going to call. Makes the process easier, right? And then last, your guarantee. You want to be very careful on it, but you want to give them a guarantee. As a lawyer, can we guarantee that they're going to win every case? Only if I'm on it. But, no, we absolutely cannot guarantee that. But we can guarantee that we're going to be there for them. We're going to guarantee that they can get in touch with an attorney. We can guarantee that when you call, within 24 hours, somebody's calling you back. Give them a guarantee. Be careful when you do it. Then the plan is how you're going to communicate that strategy. How does your ideal client receive information, right? Everybody wants to be on the ticky-tacky. Guess what? Our ideal client's not on the ticky-tacky, so we don't have to be. It feels good because I forget to even check it. Do they like phone calls versus text? It's a really hard one. That's really transitioning over time, but when you figure out your ideal client, you need to figure it out. Make sure you're talking to them the way they want to receive information. Email campaigns, print, digital. How do you want to communicate with them, right? This is going to improve the client relationship and continue to build trust with them because your relationship becomes with ease. They're like, oh my gosh, it's like they're talking to me. Yes, we are. We are. Know, like, and trust. You want to identify opportunities for leverage, right? You need to know the gifts that you are bringing. The DISC assessment as a tool for awareness will help you understand what your gifts are so you can surround yourself with resources that complement you. That is one of the reasons Arena is able to move at the speed of light that I feel like we're moving. It's because we have 4 owners that approach every situation entirely different and complement one another. And we respect those differences and we appreciate one another's gifts. We want to kill each other once a week and we're okay with it. And we hug it out. And they cut me off because they don't, oh, it went back on. This one cut off. I was like, they didn't cut me off. Pinpoint tools to maintain focus. I know Dom helped you out a little bit with this. What is your sphere of influence? Who are you spending time with, and what are you spending time doing? I always say one of my triggers is if I feel that I need to watch some stupid TV show, that I'm off balance, and I need to be triggered back. And how can I do that? I pick up a book, listen to a podcast instead of putting on Netflix. Right? Understand those things that are turning you into a cycle and then bring yourself back in so you can maintain focus. Your accountability partners will do that. And then Jason built this concept called anchored habit. What is something that you do with ease every single day that you can attach your business activity to? So for him, it was running a mile every single day. So when he was in a sales role and an outreach role, if you didn't do as many outreaches as you need to, you couldn't run that day. When you attach something to your anchor habit that means something to you, you're going to hold that commitment to yourself and continue to build those small wins. And then the last thing that we're going to do, I want to make sure that there's a maintaining of a positive attitude, because that positive attitude is what helps you move forward. A few things to point out: comparison is a thief of joy. You need to be focusing on you at all times. Another quote in our house is, "Mind your biscuits and life will be gravy." When you pay attention to somebody else, your biscuits are burning. Pay attention to you, right? Focus your energy on you. Happiness is an inside job. He reminds me all the time, I can't be in control of your happiness, but it works both ways, and I can tell him that too. But it's a choice. So at any given point, choose to be happy. Our business owners call us crying, I got this lawsuit, I have this bad client, I don't know what to do next. And I'm like, calm down. You chose this industry, you chose to own a business, so you can choose to be pleasant through this challenge, right? And guess what? If you can't, what do? Change it. Fire. You have the opportunity to change it, right? And remember that balance is unique. And I can only boil that down, because y'all would think my balance is crazy, to being your authentic self and living your priorities. But you have to put in time to do it. And the last thing I'll just quickly share with y'all, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Coffee Bean. It's a very quick, great read. But I'll summarize it to this. Can most of y'all feel like today's environment's like a pot of boiling water? It's wild out there, isn't it? So what happens to the carrot when you put it in the boiling water? It gets mushy and soft. Who wants to be mushy, soft, and weak? Not me. What happens to the egg when you put it in the boiling water? It gets harder, right? Is it always easy to get things done when you're being the hard, stubborn one? No. But what happens when you put a coffee bean in water? We get freaking coffee. Love me some coffee. So be the coffee bean. Transform the environment that you're working in. Take that control.